This episode of Variant is brought to you by Audible.com. Today on Variant, I give you a one-on-one on Batman from his creation to what he's up to now. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I'm excited that The Walking Dead Season 3 is back on TV. I'm your host, Aris Quinones. In celebration of the Batman Death of the Family story arc concluding today, I was like, why not do a history of / 101 episode of The Dark Knight himself? So, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Plus, a history of the Batman episode is the most requested episodes you guys wanted, along with a Deadpool history of. See? I read the comments and I listen to you guys. But right now, it's all about the Bat. Let's jump right into it. There's a lot of ground to cover and not much time to do it in. Batman was created by artist Bob Kane and writer Bill Finger. It made its first appearance in DC Comics Detective Comics issue 27 in May of 1939 in the story called The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, which, by the way, an original copy of Detective Comics issue 27 recently sold for over $1 million. There's also a comic that I would give my left testicle to own, but that's neither here nor there. Batman's origin, I'm sure everyone in the world knows, whether you're a comic fan or not, but of course, I'm gonna give it to you anyway. Bruce Wayne was a young boy when he witnessed his parents murdered right in front of him with his innocent little eyes, which leads to him to train himself to physical and intellectual perfection, and then that in turn leads him donning a Bat-themed costume in order to strike fear to his enemies while fighting crime on the mean streets of Gotham. Now, even though Batman was introduced in issue 27 of Detective Comics, we did get his origin till issue 33. Then by issue 38, the Dark Knight no longer fought crime alone, as we were introduced to his sidekick Robin. Robin was introduced based on Finger's suggestion that Batman needed a Watson, basically someone he could relate to, and it would allow for the stories to have more dynamic, which works out great because they're known as the dynamic duo. Obviously, the Caped Crusader was a huge success, and by the 1940s he was given his own comic simply titled Batman, which the first issue of Batman introduced two of his most famous villains, the Joker and Catwoman. And also, this is the issue where Batman guns down a huge monster. Now, I know what you're thinking, Batman used the gun. In the character's early development, the character carried a 6 gun on his side, but writers soon changed that, saying it just didn't feel right, Batman having a gun and using it. One of my favorite things about Batman is he's one of the few and pretty much the first superhero that doesn't have superpowers, which is one of the reasons why I love him so much. I mean, anyone could be a superhero if you have superpowers, but it takes one BA mother freaker to hold your own in a world with superpowered villains and superpowered heroes. Not to mention, he's a billionaire and the world's greatest detective, so there's that. During the 1950s and 60s, Batman comics became super campy, mainly due to DC wanting to coincide with the 60s Adam West and Burt Ward Batman TV series, which I absolutely loved as a kid. Now, obviously, it was a comedy and very tongue-in-cheek. I don't think you could do a Batman series today as a comedy, it just wouldn't work, but it's one of those things that is, for nostalgia purposes, I'll always love and be quite fond of. It wasn't until 1969 and the rest of the 70s where writer Dennis O'Neil and artist Neil Adams made a deliberate effort to distance Batman from the campiness of the 60s TV show and return the character back to his roots as the grim avenger of the night. Bringing Batman back to his darker roots also led to a crap ton of some of the best Batman stories ever written, a lot of which were released in the 80s. Such as Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, which tells the story of a 55-year-old Batman coming out of retirement in a possible future, or Batman Year One, which shows Bruce Wayne's first year as Batman and Jim Gordon's beginnings at Gotham Police Department, or Batman: A Death in the Family, which is what the current Batman story arc, Death of the Family, alludes to. Batman: Death in the Family, however, got major attention in 1988 when DC Comics created a 900 number for readers to call and vote on whether the second Robin, Jason Todd, lived or died. Voters decided in the favor of Jason's death by a narrow margin of 28 votes, which I'm actually kind of happy he died, because if he didn't, we wouldn't have the awesome character Red Hood, who Jason later became. But that's a whole nother topic, and I'll explain that in a future Robins episode. And lastly, who could forget possibly my favorite out of the bunch, the 48-page one-shot Batman: The Killing Joke, in which the Joker, attempting to drive Commissioner Gordon insane, does something pretty awful to his daughter, and then kidnaps and tortures Commissioner physically and psychologically. And those are just some of Batman's best storylines from the 80s. Other great Batman reads would be Batman Hush, Batman Nightfall, Batman and Son, The Long Halloween, Black Mirror, The Court of Owls storyline, Arkham Asylum, Mysterious House on Sirius Earth, Batman Reborn, The Man Who Laughs, and even the current Death of the Family storyline. So, for those of you asking for some Batman reads, I just gave you the best of the best. The Batman has also had many different Robins over the years, 4 to be exact, which would include Dick Grayson, who later becomes Nightwing, Jason Todd, who later becomes Red Hood, Tim Drake, who eventually becomes Red Robin, and the current Robin and son of Bruce Wayne / Batman, Damian Wayne. Now, some of you are probably like, no, Aris, you're wrong. There's a couple more other Robins, and technically you'd be right, as you could count others like Carrie Kelly and Stephanie Brown, but those were really short-lived and or alternate timelines, so let's face it, those are the only 4 that actually matter. As far as Batman villains, I could go on and on about his villains, as he probably has one of the biggest and best rogue galleries out of any character. And that's not being biased, I'm sure most of you would agree, but I'm not going to go in depth with his villains. I might do a Batman's Rogues episode if you guys want one bad enough, but if you've seen Batman the Animated Series, as I'm sure basically all of you have, you pretty much know a lot of his villains already. So yes, having a bunch of awesome high-tech weapons, a secret cave hideout as your base of operations, a bunch of BA vehicles ranging from cars to planes and boats, and also just being an all-around BAMF who doesn't rest until justice is served, equals one of the most coolest superheroes ever invented. Audible.com is the leading provider of downloadable digital audiobooks and spoken word entertainment. Audible has over 100,000 titles to choose from to be downloaded to your iPod, MP3 player, and played back anywhere, anytime. Choose from books in every genre, like science fiction, thrillers, drama, comedy, business, history, and more. Go to audiblepodcast.com/variant to get a free audiobook download of your choice when you sign up today. Did you know Hugh Hefner was actually the inadvertent reason for the 60s Adam West Batman TV show? Hugh Hefner was actually a huge comic book fan, so he decided to throw a comic book themed party where he had actors dress up at the party as Batman and Robin, using the goofy golly gee whiz lines from the comic books back then. An ABC executive was attending when he saw the crowd's positive reaction to the goofy Batman and Robin. He immediately ran to a payphone and called ABC with the idea for a new Batman TV show. Thus, the campy but lovable 1960s Batman series was born. First up for Wednesday, February 13th is Judge Dredd issue 4. Kidnappers are jacking the DNA from some of Mega City's most elite citizens, then growing clones to torture live on TV unless the elite pay up big time. This is one of those comics where it's like, do I really need to say more? Here we have Uncanny X-Men issue 1. The true flagship book of the X-Men returns. In the wake of the Phoenix, the world has changed and is torn on exactly what Cyclops and his team of X-Men are. Visionaries, revolutionaries, or dangerous terrorists. Whatever the truth is, Cyclops, Emma Frost, Magneto, and Magik are out in the world gathering up new mutants and redefining the name Uncanny X-Men. Now we have The Walking Dead issue 107. The TV series is back in full force, but the comic never went anywhere. In this issue, Rick is once again pushed beyond his breaking point. And finally, we have Batman issue 17. This is it, the conclusion to the death of the family storyline. Who lives, who dies? Find out as Batman and the Joker face off one last time. And yet again, today's episode must come to a close, but you can still follow me at Twitter at twitter.com/Eris_Quinones, or you can go like our Variant Facebook page. We post some comic news and anything comic related from time to time, like this picture of Kate Beckinsale's Wonder Woman. You're welcome, Internet. But that reminds me, I'll see you guys next week when I count down the top 5 best women superheroes. Wow, wow. Glows, glowing glow, glowing glow. It probably has one of the biggest and best rogue galleries that carried the highest. And that's not being biased. That's not being biased. I'm sure most of you would agree. But I'm not gonna go into it. I'm not gonna. That would take too dang long. All right, let's do this.